Thank you. I haven't said a word yet, so just calm down. Jackie Bailey, Scottish Labour candidate for Dumbarton, standing to make it 7 in a row. In just under 4 weeks, Scotland has a choice. It's a very simple and direct choice. More of the same with John Swinney and the SNP, or change with Scottish Labour and Anas Sarwar. And it's a real chance to change government for the first time in 20 years. And it's a chance we cannot afford to miss, because this election matters. Scotland's public services matter. John Swinney and the SNP want to pretend that the election is about what's going on somewhere else. And we all know why. It's because they cannot defend their own indefensible record. Nowhere is that clearer in their record on the NHS. We've had 20 years of SNP government that has left the very future of our most treasured institution at risk. Thousands of people waiting too long at A&E each and every week. Hundreds of thousands of people stuck on waiting lists. Record numbers of people forced to go private for the care that they so desperately need. 35,000 cancer patients waiting longer than they should after 13 years of missed treatment time targets. Secrecy and cover-up over the safety of our hospitals. Just the other day, reports of 3,000 black mould and dirty water leaks at the Queen Elizabeth, all while John Swinney said it was safe. Safety concerns at the delayed Baird Family Hospital and Anchor Centre in Aberdeen. Respiratory wards closed in Inverclyde Royal due to water leaking in through the windows. Wards closed in the Monklands due to infection risks, right in the Health Secretary's own backyard. But you know, the SNP put party before patients every single time. 5 years ago, we were promised recovery, but instead things have gone backwards. The SNP created this mess. They cannot fix it, but Scottish Labour can and will. We will cut bureaucracy and direct resources to the front line. We will cut NHS waiting times and make sure that the money follows the patient. We will end the 8 a.m. rush for a GP appointment and bring back the family doctor. And we will bring our NHS into the modern age and deliver an app that works. We will also improve cancer care so people get the quick, life-saving treatment that they need. We will set up a new mental health emergency service, there for people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when they need it most. And we will support the incredible NHS staff being failed so badly by this SNP government. So we will fix the SNP's mess. We'll deliver an NHS that is there when you need it. That is the choice on the ballot on May the 7th. That is what we're fighting for, because patients deserve better, staff deserve better, Scotland deserves better. It's time for change, so let's go out there and deliver it together.
In this election, we are fighting for our education, for a plan to give all our young people the best start in life. I spent nearly my whole time in school under an SNP government, and I saw how things were getting worse. My name is Matthew, and I grew up in Prestonpans, and I have seen firsthand the impact of this government's failure to address the poverty-related attainment gap, and the failure of this government to lift families out of poverty. People are left completely unprepared for school and unsupported throughout their education. Under the SNP, young people in Scotland's most deprived areas are almost half as likely to leave school with a higher as their better-off counterparts. In my high school, over 50% of the kids have additional support needs, but schools aren't being resourced to meet those needs. Fewer people are leaving school with hires than did in 2019. This doesn't happen just by chance. This is happening because the SNP are failing our young people. I experienced this failure firsthand when in 2020 I had 4 of my 6 hires downgraded by John Swinney because of my postcode. This is a government that believes that people from backgrounds like mine can't achieve as much as my classmates from the next town. That decision sums up John Swinney's failures on education. And we can't afford to leave the next generation's education in his hands. I'm voting Scottish Labour because I believe in better. I believe a better education for our young people is worth fighting for. I believe that Anas Sarwar, as First Minister, will fight for kids like me, fix the SNP's mess, and build a better future for the next generation.
Hi, my name's Zach and I'm an apprentice at a highly skilled business in East Lothian. Only Scottish Labour has a credible plan to grow the economy and make life better for the generation and for the future generations of workers. Upskilling our people is the greatest investment we can make in the future of our country. We need young people in Scotland to be trained for the well-paid jobs that already exist here in manufacturing, science and technology. And we need a proper plan in place to train a workforce with the right skills for the jobs that will be created now and in the future. Scotland needs a world-class skills and training system if we are to deliver growth, tackle poverty and improve the quality of life. Scottish Labour will transform the skills system so that it equips Scots with the skills businesses need today and to the skills they will need for tomorrow. Scottish Labour will build a better future by creating 9,000 new apprenticeships and will reform college funding and set up centres of excellence so there are people trained in the cutting-edge skills that key industries need to grow. We will work with entrepreneurs and businesses to ensure that there is government support for highly skilled industries with highly paid jobs. Only Scottish Labour can fix the current mess and get the basics right and build a better future.
Friends, this upcoming election really matters. It matters to the communities that have had to bear the brunt of 19 years of SNP incompetence and neglect. It matters to the families who were lied to about the infections at Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. And it matters to all of us who believe that Scotland deserves better. This is the first election that I will be able to vote in. I have lived under an SNP government my entire life. But just because it's all I've ever known doesn't mean that it has to be this way. We can choose a new direction. We can choose a government that will prioritise our NHS, a government that boosts our public services, and a government that fixes the mess created by the SNP. In May, we have a chance to vote for that government, one led by Anas Sarwar, a Scottish Labour leader leading a Scottish Labour government. That is the future that is possible on the 7th of May. But it is only possible if we vote for Anas Sarwar. Scotland needs change, and only Anas Sarwar can deliver that. So, it is my privilege to welcome your next First Minister, Anas Sarwar.
And there's a place I know, there's magic where the flowers grow, and beauty where the rivers flow, up over hills and country roads. Scotland is a place called home. I've walked so many miles, the feeling gets stronger. I know it's been a while, but it won't be long, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen you smile, my friends. I'm waking up every night thinking of all of the places I want to.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you all. I'm glad you're energized, raring to go for the next 3.5 weeks. Thank you all so much. As we have just heard, this election is so important, and we all know what is at stake. These amazing young people are the very future of our country, Scotland, and they have lived most, if not all of their lives, under an SNP government. And they know this can't be as good as it gets. This election is about the Scotland we build for these young people and the next generation. It's about whether we have an NHS that is there when people need it. It's about whether we have safe schools and safe streets. And it's about whether we give our children the education and opportunities they need to succeed. It's about whether we create jobs and prosperity to grow our economy and make life more affordable. That is the choice at this election. More of the same with the SNP or change with Scottish Labour. And after 20 years of the SNP, they have lost their way. They have been given 20 years. I'm asking you to give me 5. And I'm standing to be the next First Minister of Scotland and asking you to give me that 5 years to fix the SNP's mess, because I believe that change is needed and that a better future is possible. Now, I know that after 20 years of broken SNP promises, some people are cynical about whether politics can deliver. And no wonder. Across our country, people are working hard, striving to do right by their loved ones and their family. But they are still feeling let down by a government that can't even get the basics right. The truth is that the SNP may be tired, full of excuses and out of ideas, but that doesn't mean Scotland has to be. The people who created the mess cannot be the ones to fix it. They want to look back to the arguments of the past, but I want to look to the future. And that is what this manifesto is all about. A real plan to fix the SNP's mess and end their waste. A real plan to get the basics right for all those hard-working Scots who just want a government that delivers, and a real plan to build an ambitious and better future for the country we all love. A plan to transform our country and deliver the change that Scotland needs. Take our NHS. It was created by a Labour government over 75 years ago on the principle that access to healthcare shouldn't be dependent on how much money you have. It should be available to everyone when they need it. Delivering on that promise is better for our people, better for our country, and better for our economy. But after 20 years of the SNP, it's a principle that isn't being met. When record numbers of people feel forced to turn to private healthcare, not because they want to, but because they feel they have no other choice. When thousands of patients are waiting years for treatment. When people hang on the end of a phone, struggling to get hold of a GP. The principle that Labour fought for, an NHS that is there for all of us free at the point of need, has been broken by this SNP government. Now, shamefully, last night, John Swinney didn't even know how many people had been waiting over 2 years for NHS treatment. That's not the kind of First Minister I will be, because fixing the NHS is personal to me. I started my working life in the NHS as a dentist in Paisley. I know what it means to serve patients, to care for people in their moment of need, and to be part of a public service that at its best reflects the very best values of our great country. That is why I cannot and will not accept what has happened to it. As First Minister, one of my priorities will be to save our NHS so it's there when people need it. And that starts by fixing the mess that the SNP have made. Last night, from the debate audience, we heard firsthand how the SNP have taken the generosity and dedication of staff for granted, run down our services, and let patients pay the price. Now, every day of this election campaign, John Swinney has talked about a government somewhere else, not the issues here at home. And last night in the debate, in every single answer, he talked about a government somewhere else as he desperately tried to deflect from the government he's been at the heart of for 20 years. Patients and staff can't risk a third decade of the SNP in government. Our National Health Service is more important than that, because it's not the job of the First Minister to simply point fingers. It's the job of the First Minister to roll up their sleeves like I did in Paisley every single day and to fix things. So that is why, as First Minister, I will cut waiting times with money following the patient and using capacity across Scotland and across the UK so patients get the treatment when they need it without having to go private. And I will create a new mental health emergency service so people in crisis get NHS care, not a police response. And I will restore the Labour principles of an NHS free and available when you need it. But we will go further. We will end the ATM rush for a GP appointment, and we will guarantee an appointment within 48 hours for those who need one. We will bring back the family doctor so that patients get the local care they need. And we will support our young people who ask for help with their mental health with CAMHS link workers and better support in GP practices. Because our ambition for our NHS does not just stop there, we also want to make it fit for the future. So we don't want just to restore the NHS to what it was before the SNP came to power. We want to build a better future with an NHS that delivers for future generations. That's why we will invest in new technology, AI scanners to get quicker diagnosis and faster treatment, an NHS app so that patients can access the advice and appointments they need on their smartphones, and new screening services so we can catch cancer earlier and save lives. Now, the SNP want to pretend that things in our NHS are fine, that somehow they've turned a corner. But as we heard from the audience in the debate last night, patients know better. Because if you're one of those patients that can't get an appointment, can't get seen, can't get treated on time, then nothing else that John Swinney says really matters. And you saw that in the audience yesterday. And after nearly 20 years of SNP government, people are entitled to ask a very simple question. If they were going to fix it, why haven't they done it by now? They have had 20 years, so give me 5, and I will show that we can once again have an NHS that is true to its founding principles, there when you need it. But this manifesto is about more than rescuing our NHS after years of failure. It's about making Scotland work again, making life more affordable for families, giving all our young people the chance to succeed, building the homes people need, backing Scottish jobs and Scottish businesses, and making sure that government respects your money and focuses on the things that matter. Because we are a country full of talent, compassion, innovation, and ambition. We have everything we need to succeed, but we need a Scottish government that will match the hard work and ambition of the great people of this country. That's why I will focus on delivery, not excuses. I will drive our country forward, not manage decline. So let me set out what I will do differently as First Minister. That starts by making life more affordable. That is why a government I lead will reduce costs of childcare for working parents with a tax break worth £3,000 per child and £6,000 for a child with a disability. We will fund 2 weeks of summer holiday comes, and we will keep down the cost of public transport with no return to peak fares and protecting free bus travel. And we will improve the energy efficiency of people's homes with more grants for older and rural households. But let me also say one other thing. I will not be a First Minister that is prepared to use the illegal actions of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu to simply point the finger of blame somewhere else. And that is why, if the international instability continues, I promise to act. I will deliver a £100 million package of emergency support, which will include loans for energy-intensive industries to protect jobs, bulk buying fuel to drive down prices at the pumps, crisis grants and loans for households, I will convene an emergency summit of the supermarkets to bring down the costs of staple items, and I will redeploy our civil service to support people to maximise their incomes. We all want the war to end. We all want peace and stability. But if this crisis continues, my priority will be protecting households and livelihoods here at home, because I will always act and put the interests of Scotland first. But friends, if we are to build a better future for the next generation, we need to restore Scotland's once world-leading education system. And you've already heard it today. Let's not forget that John Swinney was the Education Secretary that shamefully downgraded working-class kids during the pandemic. So I will be a First Minister that backs all of Scotland's children. That is why, as First Minister, I will ban mobile phones in classrooms to protect our young people and restore order. I will deliver free breakfast clubs in every primary school so no child starts the school day hungry. I will support pupils with 1,500 new classroom assistants, and I will recruit 2,000 specialist teachers to deliver a reading and numeracy recovery for pupils. Because I want every young person to have the chance to succeed, whatever route they choose. And that is what a Scottish Labour government will deliver. So yes, we will maintain free university tuition, but we will go further, creating 9,000 new apprenticeships in growth industries and apprenticeship centres of excellence in our amazing colleges, so that young people have a route into the well-paid jobs of the future and businesses get the skills they need to grow. Because growing the economy is how we deliver that better future. Now, there are some in Scottish politics who don't believe that growth matters, that somehow you can tax your way to prosperity. But you can't fund public services unless you have a vibrant economy. That is why, as First Minister, I will work in partnership with business to create jobs and deliver growth. I will end the SNP's ideological block on clean nuclear energy so we can attract billions of pounds of investment, create thousands of high-skilled jobs, and deliver energy security here at home. I will abolish unfair business rates to support our high streets and make sure the online giants finally pay their fair share. I will reform procurement so that government money backs Scottish workers and we build and buy more here in Scotland. And I will overhaul planning to speed up decisions and unlock land for new developments so the investments come here to Scotland and not go elsewhere. And I will promote Brand Scotland around the world to boost exports and tourism. Because we all know how great our country is. It's about time Scotland had a government that stopped trying to sell Scotland to the Scots, but instead went to selling the best of Scotland to the rest of the world. And that is what a Scottish Labour government will deliver. Scotland's towns, cities and neighbourhoods should be places where Scots can grow up, raise families, live well and grow old together in community, but sadly too many feel neglected and ignored. That is why I want us to build stronger and safer communities. So as First Minister, I will fix the mess and end the neglect with a £350 million potholes fund to restore our roads and fix 5 million potholes. I will get the basics right with a named community police officer for every neighbourhood, and I will build a better future with public transport putting bus services back under public control and delivering faster intercity travel on our rail network. Because, friends, the foundation of secure communities is the guarantee of a safe, warm and affordable place to call home. But for too many families in Scotland, that isn't a reality. Right now, as I speak, 10,000 children in our country are homeless. And rough sleeping has increased by 66% in recent years. That is a scandal that I'm not willing to tolerate or willing to accept. That's why, as First Minister, my government will deliver 125,000 new homes in the next 5 years, helping renters with more affordable rents. And we will restore the dream of home ownership by helping first-time buyers to save for a deposit and cutting the tax they have to pay on their first home. And we will be the party that ends homelessness and finally eradicates rough sleeping once and for all. Friends, the people of Scotland deserve a government that delivers. Not one that asks them to pay more and more, but see less and less in return. That is why, as First Minister, I will commit to not raising income tax in the next 5 years. And our aim is to reduce taxes when we get the economy growing. And we will end the culture of talking shops and quangos that cost millions and only act as cover for the SNP's failure. You know, there are 135 public bodies in Scotland, more than the number of MSPs. So I will end excessive public sector bonuses. I will cut a third of quangos so more money goes to the frontline services on which people rely, and I will make sure government is once again transparent and accountable to the people of Scotland, ending the culture of secrecy and cover-up we see under the SNP and John Swinney once and for all. But friends, above all, this manifesto is about hope. Not the empty hope of slogans, real hope grounded in action. Hope that comes from knowing that things can be better and having a plan to make them better. Because I believe Scotland's best days lie ahead of us. But that better future will not arrive by accident. It will only come if we choose it. So if you want change in Scotland, you have to vote for it. And there is only one route to change at this election, and that is a vote for me and for Scottish Labour. After almost 20 years, it's time to change the government in Scotland. And this is the first real opportunity in a generation to do that. An opportunity we cannot afford to miss. And to everyone here or watching at home, my message is this. It's not about how you voted in the past. It's not about whether you have voted Labour before. It's not about what side of the past arguments you were on. It's about bringing our country together and making it better right now. So if you agree that our NHS must be saved, if you agree that families deserve better, if you agree that after 20 years of one party being in charge, it's time for change, then vote for it. Change to save our NHS. Change to make life more affordable. Change that will help all our young people to succeed. Change to make our streets safer and our communities stronger. Change for our towns, cities, islands and villages. You have given the SNP 20 years. Give me 5. And my promise to the people of Scotland in return is simple. If you put your trust in me on May the 7th, I will work every single day to repay it. Every day to fix the mess. Every day to get the basics right. Every day to build a better future for the country we all love. So on May the 7th, vote for change, vote for Scottish Labour, and let's win that future together. Thank you.
And there's a place I know. There's magic where the flowers grow, and beauty where the rivers flow. Over in country roads, Scotland is a place called home. I've walked so many miles, the feeling gets stronger. I know it's been a while, but it won't be long, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen you smile, my friends. I'm waking up every night thinking of all of the places I wanna go. The flags will be flying held up and the sky will be coming on down the road. But don't forget where we're coming from, my friends. And there's a place I know. There's magic where the flowers grow, and beauty where the rivers flow. Up over hills and country roads, Scotland is a place called home.
Thank you all so much. We are now going to take questions from the print journalists. There is quite a number here, so please be patient with us. And of course, always be respectful of our journalistic colleagues. They're a key part of a functioning democracy. First, Paul Hutchin from the Daily Record.
Hi, there are two questions. You say that you want to lower the tax burden in the next parliamentary term. Can you provide more detail? That is, specifically, which tax rates would you cut if you're First Minister? And secondly, I'm just looking at the section on poverty, and you don't say how many kids you want to take out of poverty. There's no targets, and I'm looking at some of the policies like introducing breakfast clubs and a £40 a week Scottish child payment for under ones. Those were announced by the SNP government in their own budget. Why is that section so lacking in ambition?
Well, thanks for those two questions, Paul. Let me take the second one first. Is the reason why this is a different programme to challenge poverty in this country is because under this SNP government, they think the only answer to every problem is either to increase a benefit or to add a new quango. Well, we believe in something different. We believe to challenge structural poverty, you have to invest in our young people, meaning they get a chance at school. That's why the 1,500 classroom assistants and the 2,000 new specialist teachers are so important. It means giving our kids a chance when they leave school. That's why the 9,000 new apprenticeships and the centres for excellence in our colleges, as well as maintaining free university tuition, is so important. And it's also why investing in our industries, keeping jobs here at home is so important, because you lift families out of poverty by giving them a good job and a well-paid job. That's the difference a Labour government makes. So if you're asking me a direct question, do I believe in the safety net? Yes. But if you're asking me the choice between giving the young person just simply a benefit or also a skill and a job, this is a Labour government that's going to give them a skill and a job. On the tax rate question, we have set out a really ambitious growth target within the manifesto. Our promises are not contingent on us meeting that growth target. That's an ambition that we have set, meaning we'll go even further than the promises made in this manifesto and further in terms of the tax cuts we want to make if we meet that growth target of 0.4% additional growth per year. And the rates that we want to see changed is taking, for example, right now you pay a higher tax if you earn around £33,500. That means nurses and teachers pay higher taxes here than they do in other parts of the country. And around the £40,000 mark, you're paying a significantly higher level of marginal tax compared to other parts of the UK. And if the SNP who negotiated the fiscal framework actually understood the fiscal framework, it means ramping up the median salary in this country and also increasing the breadth of that median salary. So we will look particularly at those tax bands. Thank you, Paul. Dan Sanderson from The Times.
Thanks, Anas. You said last night in the TV debate that the manifesto was going to be fully costed. So can you point us to where those costings are? Because you've identified 700 million in increased revenue from growth, 200 million in efficiencies, but you're spending 5.3 billion on homes, 350 million on potholes. You're going to cut taxes, 2 billion on railways, 630 million on teachers and classroom assistants, 680 million on digital and technological improvements in the NHS. So, I mean, if you were seriously thought you were going to become First Minister, wouldn't you have come up with something more realistic than this, which I think it's fair to say the IFS will tear apart in about 5 minutes?
Well, let me first of all say I am serious about being First Minister, and this is an election we intend to win on the 7th of May. That's why it is the most ambitious manifesto that you can imagine. And there is a section, paying for our promises, delivering fiscal competence, that sets out each of those costs and those spending commitments, and also identifying that growth figure, which means we can go well above and beyond those spending commitments as well. They absolutely add up, and we're going to demonstrate it in government. Thank you, Dan. I'll take Mark McLaughlin from The Sun.
Good morning. The top line of every chapter in your manifesto pledges to fix the mess. Sir Keir Starmer was elected a couple of years ago on the same promise to fix the mess, and voters don't seem very impressed with that. So why should voters believe you when they feel let down by Sir Keir Starmer? And just a couple of policy questions. The 2,000 extra teachers, will that be over and above the current baseline, or will you be retraining the existing ones? Because the SNP reneged on a pledge to hire more teachers. And also, you've pledged to cut dozens of quangos. Name 3.
So let me first make the first point. This election is not about the record of a government that's been in power for 2 years. It's about whether we want to keep in power a party that's been in for 20 years. And we can see in every area of public policy in Scotland that the SNP have taken us backwards. So this election is not about voting for who the Prime Minister is or who the UK government is. It's about choosing who the First Minister is and who leads the Scottish government. And on the question you asked about the specialist teachers, that is new additional specialist teachers alongside those classroom assistants. That money is coming from the additional revenues that are coming from the SEND proposals that have happened in other parts of the UK. That's around over £500 million that's due to come over the next few years to the Scottish government. In terms of the quangos, let me give you an example about the enterprise agencies, for example. Right now we have a cluttered enterprise agency landscape. The model that works actually is the South of Scotland enterprise gets much more bang for its buck than Scottish enterprise. The Highlands and Islands enterprise gets much more bang for its buck than Scottish enterprise. We have a separate Scottish National Investment Bank. We have separate Scottish Development International. We believe we can create one super agency at the heart of the First Minister's office that recognises the regional priorities so we can have regional growth in our country, as well as selling the best of Scotland to the rest of the world. So we will declutter that landscape and make sure the money goes to invest in our businesses rather than just more and more quangos that are there to act as a deflection for the SNP government. Tom Gordon from the Daily Mail.
Thank you, Anas. You mentioned the international conflict and trouble in the Gulf in passing, but in the financial section of the manifesto, it says the figures are predicated on existing Scottish budget and the existing spending review. Those predate the conflict. They have been overtaken by events. We will be lucky to avoid a recession. If we do that, growth will be depressed. Inflation will rise, and that will fuel pay demands. You will have less money to spend, or less money that makes less impact than before. Why put forward a spending programme that is already dead on arrival?
Well, first of all, I don't think that will happen, but I've also set out emergency measures that we will take. Because I want peace to happen, I'm hopeful that we can have an end to the war by May the 7th. But if that war continues, if that instability continues, then we will deliver an emergency package worth at least £100 million, as I set out in my speech, that will give support to energy-intensive companies so we can protect jobs. That will include bulk buying petrol so we can bring down prices at the pump, so we can give those grants and loans to families that their household budgets are struggling, as well as the summit with supermarkets to drive down the cost of staple items. And we will use the ScotWind money as that temporary measure so we can take those emergency actions. But do we want the stability? Of course. Do we want the war to end? Yes. That's why we have our manifesto to deliver on those commitments. But if the instability continues, we will act to take the appropriate action.
Would you have an emergency budget?
We will keep all option on the table. But right now, we want the war to end. I hope it will. If it doesn't, we will impose those emergency measures to protect jobs and livelihoods in the here and now. Rebecca McCurdy from the Herald.
Thanks very much. Keir Starmer is in Greater Manchester today. He's campaigning with Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham. He said he's got a 5-year mandate regardless of the outcome of this election and the election in Wales as well. Are you happy about that?
I'm interested in who the First Minister is. I'm interested in changing the government here in Scotland. If Keir Starmer wants to campaign in Manchester, that's all well and good. I'm campaigning to change the government here in Scotland, and that's what we intend to do on the 7th of May. I'll take Simon Johnson from the Telegraph, please.
Thank you, Anas. Your manifesto promises to deliver single-sex spaces on the basis of biological sex in the NHS, schools, sport and prisons. But Bridget Phillipson still hasn't published the guidance that was given to her by the HRC on this at the start of last September. And 4 women in Scotland are travelling to London this week to commemorate the first anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling. They say they can't get a meeting with Ms Phillipson, and they're going to deliver a letter to 10 Downing Street to get that guidance published. Would you agree with them that this guidance should now be published? Thanks.
Well, a couple of things on that. First of all, we will stop taking court cases to stop the implementation of the Equality Act in Scotland. We will stop that waste of public money, and we will implement the ruling of the Equality Act. We will implement that ruling in full. That means protecting single-sex spaces based on biological sex. That's services, spaces and sport. And unequivocally, we will implement the guidance of the EHRC in full, and we will go to them directly if we have to. Look, you're asking me to judge what we would do if we're the government in Scotland. We will implement in full the guidelines of the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Thank you. I'll take Sev from The Guardian.
Thank you, Anas. So your manifesto, as you say, you've got loads of ambitions, it's packed full of detail, but the problem that you have is the Scottish electorate are not listening. There are repeated opinion polls showing that Labour's standing is actually declining rather than improving. There is an argument that you're actually being blamed for decisions that the UK government is not taking around the energy crisis. People are no longer listening. How on earth do you think you're going to be in any position to be able to deliver this manifesto without more support from Keir Starmer, action on the energy crisis that's coming up? Are you talking to Starmer? Are you talking to the Chancellor and asking them to intervene and offer more help?
Well, again, Sev, an obsession about a government somewhere else, the Prime Minister's office and the Chancellor's office. What's the point of the First Minister's office then? John Swinney's job is not to be the chief lobbyist for Scotland. His job is to use the power in Scotland to deliver for the people of Scotland. He's abdicated that responsibility, and May the 7th, we will assume that responsibility and work every day to achieve and deliver for the great people of this country. Secondly, people were listening to the debate yesterday. They were watching the debate yesterday, and they can quite clearly see that John Swinney's had his chance, the SNP's lost its way, and for all the issues that touch them every single day, the NHS, their kids' education, access to social care homes, opportunities in the classroom or in colleges, apprenticeships, universities, access to policing, our court system, and so much more, it is the sole responsibility of a Scottish government. And I am confident that the more people see the choice in this election campaign, the more they come alive to this election campaign, they will choose change on the 7th of May with me and Scottish Labour. I'll take David Ball from the Scotsman, please.
Thank you, Anas. Your manifesto contains a lot of things we've kind of heard from you before over the last couple of years. There's also a lot of tinkering with SNP priorities. There's quite a lot of quite vague reforms that you want to bring forward. Why do you think, given your slogan is Scotland needs change, it does appear that you really think that Scotland needs new management rather than new bold ideas? And do you really think that this manifesto is going to be enough to move the dial with the public when it looks like you need a miracle to form a government, and people are more focused, as Sev said, on the UK government and the issues they have with Labour in government at Westminster?
Well, let me just take on the last point. Is if I listened to you guys for the last 5 years, I wouldn't be standing in this election campaign to win. Because you told us the Labour Party wasn't going to survive. We did in 2021. You told us we weren't going to come second in the council elections. We did. You told us that Michael Shanks was not going to win the Rutherglen by-election. We did. You told us we weren't going to win the general election. We got 37 Scottish Labour MPs. You told us Davy Russell wasn't going to win the Hamilton by-election. He did. Actually, some of you said we were going to come 5th in the by-election. And now you're telling us we can't win this election. I look forward to proving you all wrong on the 7th of May. And you say this manifesto lacks ambition. Cutting waiting lists and making sure people in this country don't have to go private is ambition. Ending homelessness and building 125,000 new homes is ambition. Delivering 9,000 new apprenticeships, 2,000 specialist teachers, 15 classroom assistants so we can support our young people is ambition. Stopping the waste, respecting people's money, cutting taxes is ambition. This manifesto is full of ambition, but you only get it if you vote for it on May the 7th. I'll take Andy Phillip from the P&J, please.
Morning.
Morning.
The crisis at Dundee University shows that funding for higher education can get really bad very quickly. Your manifesto suggests you would says you would keep free tuition, and you would find out a way to figure out future funding in partnership with people, I guess, universities and others. What happens if they come back and say we need to look again at fee-free tuition? And do you have anything more than that sort of blank sheet of paper at the moment for how you would actually find a way of funding universities like Dundee without changing fees?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. I know how worried people are that work at Dundee University and indeed other education establishments right across the country. I wrote to every university and college principal not long after the crisis at Dundee University to ask them to work in good faith with us to build a model that we can put our education establishments into a sustainable footing, making only one red line with them, which is that we would maintain free university tuition. So they know that is our red line. And I know work has already begun amongst those universities to come up with a proposal that they hope will be presented cross-party to people across the Parliament in the next Parliament. And I will work closely with all our university and college principals to make sure we are protecting our fantastic educational establishments. But let me just add one other thing. Within this is a commitment to proper regional economic development and planning. Our universities and our college have to be front and centre of that. Right now we have a dysfunctional system with our transport system, our skills system, our colleges and universities, our schools, investment, procurement, such like, is all done in a complicated labyrinth with no connection to each other at all. We will change that to make sure we have proper regional economic development that is true partnership between government, local authorities, businesses, colleges and universities, so we can make sure every part of our great country gets the chance to succeed. Of course, including Dundee, and Michael Mara and Cheryl Ann Cruikshank are particularly keen on making sure that Dundee thrives. I've set myself a dangerous trap there because all the candidates are going to expect a shout out now. Louise Wilson from Holyrood magazine, please.
Morning, Anas.
Morning.
We are basically on the brink of a global recession given what is happening in the Middle East. So is this manifesto nothing more than wishful thinking given what is coming? And I guess relatedly, can I just get clarity on what your personal position is on new drilling in the North Sea and whether new licenses should be approved?
Thank you. Can I just first of all say on the... Look, I'm not going to downplay what's happening in the Middle East and the global instability. And I think one of the things that is characterised so much of the last few months, but actually probably the last few years, is the way people in Scotland watching their television screens every single day, worried about, yes, another part of the world, but actually worried about global peace and security. And I think that creates a sense of despair, hopelessness, and nervousness for our country. And I could take a different approach in this election campaign, which is to say, nothing can be better, nothing can't be fixed, it's all going in one direction. But I think that would do an injustice to the great people of this country who need hope back in their lives and a demonstration the government can work for them. And that's what this manifesto is about, giving hope back to our country that feels hopeless and making sure we don't wallow in the despair that we have under this SNP government. That's why I'm proud of this manifesto and absolutely believe that we can and will deliver upon it. You asked me a second question. Oh, sorry, no, on North Sea. So we made a commitment that we would honour the licences delivered by the last government. We should stick to that commitment. And also, it was right that it was being considered to scrap the EPL before the Iran conflict, but given the windfalls came back because of the illegal war started by Netanyahu and Trump, it's right that the EPL maintains while those windfalls continue. But Energy Future is also on the ballot paper on the 7th of May. Right now, 24% of Scotland's electricity comes from nuclear sources, but bizarrely, we have a nationalist government in Scotland that says the jobs, the investments, and the opportunities should go somewhere else. No. I want the jobs, the investments, and the opportunities to come to Scotland. That's why we will end the ideological block on clean nuclear energy, unlock billions of pounds of new investment, create thousands of jobs, and deliver greater energy security. That's another thing that's on the ballot on the 7th of May. I'll take Ian Swanson, please, from the Edinburgh Evening News.
Thank you. I was wondering what voters in Edinburgh are meant to make of you saying you'll be a First Minister for Glasgow. And you say you'll build the Glasgow Airport rail link. Will you also build or fund the Edinburgh's proposed new north-south tram line?
So, first of all, I've never hidden the fact that I'm a Weegie and I'm from Glasgow. And I think the fact that I'm launching the manifesto in Edinburgh as a Weegie tells you everything that you need to know. Look, the point I was making about Glasgow is no one can pretend that the city of Glasgow has not been neglected. And the point I was making about the Glasgow Airport rail link in particular is we have a situation right now, even though the SNP promised almost 20 years ago to deliver a Glasgow Airport rail link, that you can get a direct train from Glasgow's Central Station to Manchester Airport, but you can't get one from Glasgow Central Station to Glasgow Airport. That's why it will be a national priority, and we will finally deliver that Glasgow Airport rail link. And specifically on Edinburgh, we will deliver an additional express service between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and we will of course work with Edinburgh and the wider Lothians region to make sure we are developing regional transport. Lothian buses, for example, is a fantastic exemplar of what you can do with integrated, publicly controlled transport. I want that for every part of the country. So Edinburgh's got some great models that the rest of the country can replicate, but I also want that investment in that express service to Glasgow and working with the local authority to deliver on its proposed metro line. Thank you. I'll take Simeon from the Financial Times.
Thanks, Anas. Given so many of the problems that we've faced has been around... Hello.
Oh, there you go.
Hi.
Sorry, Simon.
Yeah. Some of the problems that we face around, has been around low growth. The UK government came and promised growth, and so many of those policies have failed. You've made a virtue about how, if you were First Minister, you'd be able to work with the UK government. What would you tell them that they need to do to finally get growth going across the country and then feeding into Scotland? Thank you.
Well, the first thing is genuine partnership. And I think right now we have a situation in Scotland where we pretend every single economic lever available to us is in the hands of a government somewhere else, when frankly that's not the case. If you look at the levers that exist here in Scotland, first of all, our tax, too high. We'll try and drive down taxes in the next Parliament. Secondly, planning. The average planning application in my home city of Glasgow takes 53 weeks. In Manchester, 57 weeks. In Manchester, it's 13 weeks. We will reform planning to get faster decisions and therefore more investment. Third, our skills system, wholly devolved. Our apprenticeship levy in Scotland is not even ring-fenced to go on skills. So it's just an additional tax on businesses. We will ring-fence the apprenticeship levy. We'll create those new apprenticeships. We'll have the centres of excellence in our colleges, as well as maintaining free tuition. Our business rate system, wholly devolved. Right now, our rate system does not work for our high streets and town centres. Many of the businesses, for example, in the hospitality sector, have seen their business rates go up by 300% in the last year under this SNP government. We will abolish business rates, reinvigorate our high streets, and create a new system that shifts the balance away from our town centres and onto the online retail giants. We'll build the homes our country need. Transport is also wholly devolved. I've given you 2 transport examples already. We will use the full levers that exist in Scotland to make sure the investments come here and we grow our economy. And as I said already at the start, the growth target that we have and the ambition we have is not one that is conditional on what we deliver in this manifesto. If we deliver those additional targets and growth, that is going further than what we promise and bringing down taxes in the next Parliament. That's the responsible and right thing to do. What would I want the UK government to do? Well, sit at their desks, carry on making the investments and make sure we're delivering for people right across this great country. And I'm sure the Secretary for Scotland, Douglas Alexander, is working very hard on that very fact. Cheer for Douglas Alexander, come on. I'll take Ethan Croft, please, from the New Statesman.
Hello, Anas. I just wondered, you mentioned this quite a specific thing, but you said you wanted to cut down on excessive bonuses in the public sector. I just wondered if you could give us a sense of who these fat cats are, and if you'd like to name any names or talk about the particular areas where you think public sector workers are being paid too much money, for example.
Well, take Scottish Water as the perfect example, where there are millions of pounds in the reserves. Water bills are soaring. There's not enough protections in place to make sure we're monitoring and protecting our streams across the country, and the Chief Executive gets more than a 6-figure bonus. That is not right, that is not fair, and that's why my government will not approve these big bonuses and reward failure. We will only reward success in this country, unlike the SNP. I'll take Abby Gordon-Crosbie, please, from the National.
Hello. I just wanted to check. Obviously, I watched the debate last night, and you did not set out what you believe the democratic route to independence was. And I thought, it's been overnight. Have you had any more thought about that? And also, I wondered if you had any response to what Wes Streeting said yesterday, because it did come up in the debate, but I didn't see you respond to him saying that the UK government wouldn't give Scotland a referendum, even if there was an SNP majority.
So I'm being really direct and honest with people in this election campaign about what my view is and what I believe we're choosing on the 7th of May. I don't support independence. I don't support a referendum. But I'm actually not asking even you, national readers, or anybody else to change their mind on independence. What I'm saying is that this election is not about whether the SNP win a majority or not. It's about whether the SNP stay in power or not. And the next Parliament has to be about bringing our country together to make it better right now. And if in the future there's a stronger Scotland and it decides a different final destination, so be it. But let's spend the next 5 years fixing the SNP's mess and building that better future. But let me just say one other thing. John Swinney knows he's not going to win a majority. He's blagging his own supporters. And the reason why he's doing it is because he knows that every minute he spends talking about that is a minute he doesn't have to talk about his record, the NHS, our schools, our care homes, or anything else. And frankly, people will see right through it, and it's why I believe people will choose change on the 7th of May. You have all been remarkably patient, but there is just one more, and that is Tom Wilson from Deadline News.
Thank you, Anas. You've mentioned in your speech the illegal actions of Trump and Netanyahu, and then you mentioned now during this Q&A the illegal war. Would you push against the US military using Scottish airports to launch actions against Iran, especially given the blockade by the US military is about to start in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, let me be unequivocal. No UK facility, no Scottish facility should be used for offensive purposes in what is an illegal action taken by Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. And let me just go further than that as well. I will not use the illegal actions of Trump, Netanyahu, or indeed the illegal actions of Putin in Ukraine to find it simply as a reason to blame a government somewhere else and to close my eyes about what's happening right now in Scotland. And that's why I go back to that emergency package that I mentioned in my speech. If the war continues, if the instability continues, then I will act, because the job of the First Minister is to make sure they're fighting for the country rather than just pointing the fingers of blame somewhere else. And if that means having to redeploy the civil service, if it means having to use the weight of our resources to protect jobs and livelihoods in the here and now, I will be unafraid to do it. Because for me, Scotland first, everything else after. Oh, sorry. There is one more. Sorry, Terry Murden.
Yes, thanks, Anas. Just a question on business. Sandy Begbie of Scottish Financial Enterprise has called for business people to be directly involved in government and to have a position in government. Do you support that view? And if so, in what capacity?
So as you know, Sandy Begbie has been one of our independent economic advisors, helping us develop our growth plan for Scotland, one of many different representatives. And where I think Sandy is making a very cogent argument is there are many people who are experts in their individual fields, many of them business people, who will not want to be politicians, who will not want to serve in public sector bodies, and who will not want to be civil servants. And we should stop pretending that civil servants, public sector bodies, or politicians have all the answers. So if that means we have to appoint special envoys, trade ambassadors, or specialists to come in and do a special piece of work to deliver on the opportunities that exist in Scotland, I will make that happen. Because this is going to be a government that's about bringing our country, Scotland, together, all the talents, despite their politics, working together to deliver for the great people of Scotland. And that leaves me all to say that in 3 and a bit weeks' time, let's make sure Scotland gets the change it so desperately needs. Thank you all so much.
There's a place I know, there's magic where the flowers grow, and beauty where the rivers flow, up over hills and country roads. Scotland is our place called home. I've walked so many miles, the feeling gets stronger. I know it's been a while, but it won't be long, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen you smile, my friends.